You know those clear mixes? Those mixes where you can hear all the elements that you want to hear. Not at the same volume, of course, but all the elements is present in the mix. In this video, I'm going to break down to you how to get clear mixes. Let's go. I'm going to share with you 4 things that I think makes mixes as clear as possible. And if you stick with me all the way to the end, I will share with you an additional tip that will rock your world, especially if you're a beginner. Tip number 1, and this might seem obvious, but it's strictly levels. Let me show you this little chart that I always use when I mix. It's like my go-to levels in the mix. Check it out. So you see the kick, the snare, the hi-hat, the instrumentation, the bass. When it comes to levels, all these elements have their own place in the mix. As you can see, kick has a lot of gain, whilst hi-hats are more pushed back in the mix. These are my go-tos, and I will always tweak them, but these are good starting points. Leveling your mixes right will give you clarity because the elements that you want to hear loud will be heard loud, and the softer elements will be pushed back in the mix, but they won't disappear. If you have the bass and the kick, and you have some other elements such as instruments, for example, acoustic guitars, piano, how can you avoid these being swallowed in the mix? Well, simply by using EQs, because each element, say kick, bass, piano, they will always come EQ'd right. Even if you use a sample pack, they will be EQ'd right in their own sense. If you're sampling records, they are already professional productions. They will be EQ'd correctly. However, when you mix them together in a new composition, they might not fit perfectly from the get-go. Sometimes they do, but most times they don't. And there you have the EQ. You just smack an EQ on it and you take away the frequencies that you don't need. There are certain frequencies in a piano that you don't need when you have a bass in addition. There are certain frequencies in a kick drum that you can take away, or you can make them quieter at least. You don't take them away completely, but you can lower them a bit to give more space to, for example, the bass, or to a piano that is more on the low end. In order to do this, you just have to listen to the elements in the full, complete mix. No soloing around. If you do this many times, you will eventually get the grasp of it. There's no cheat sheet here. You just have to put in the work. And when you have done this enough times, it will pay dividends. Then you can enter any mix and you will immediately hear, okay, a little less 3K in this piano and a bit more to the snare to complement. You will get the hang of it, but it takes practice. But EQing is a key component of obtaining clarity in the mix. And one of the most common things that you can do with the EQ is, of course, using a filter to filter out some of the low end in the not so low end heavy instruments, such as guitar, keyboard, piano, taps, and so on. Vocals. You need that sweet low end on the vocals, but you don't need anything below 60 to 80 hertz. There you can use a gentle high pass filter. And when you're done with the EQ, there's yet another thing that is quite ingenious to use. Tip number 3, panning. You can pan the instruments to the sides and experiment on how far can you pan an instrument without it sounding weird. If you use headphones, it will sound weird immediately. If you use speakers, you can push it further to the sides without it sounding weird. And when you get used to it with speakers, you can use headphones and you will get the feel for it eventually there as well. So pan stuff to the left, pan other stuff to the right to give more room for the elements. If you have a piano and a guitar, you can push the piano a bit left and the guitar a bit right. And you have to experiment on what level the two elements are and how far you can push them to the sides. And the further you push two competing elements to the side, the more clarity you'll get. And as a bonus, you will also get more width. Tip number 4, compression. When you compress the dynamics, squeeze the dynamics a bit on each element, not by much, maybe a dB, maybe 2 on vocals, even more, but you squeeze them a bit, you have more playroom with the gain of the song. You get a louder mix. When you compress each element will also take less space in the total economy of the gain structure. So you will have a tighter, more pronounced sound from every element, and the more you compress them, the more space they will have to live in. It's like having a large plastic bag in a small room. That plastic bag might take up half of the space in the room. If you just squeeze it together and tie a knot on it, it will only take up a couple of centimeters in the corner. And that's how compression works. You just squeeze it a bit and make room for more until you don't want any more. And then you can expand the squeezed elements and put on a limiter and call it a day. That's compression. If you feel that you got anything out of this video, please hit the like button and hit the subscribe button down there. And also, in the description, I have linked a free mixing cheat sheet that you can download right away. It's 15 cheat codes to a better mix and my 10-step workflow that I use every time I mix a boom bap hip hop song, for example, or trap. I mix trap as well. Hip hop, that is. Hip hop. I promised you one final tip, and here it comes. Sidechaining. This is a big topic, and I have made a separate video for this, but I can say in short that sidechaining, in essence, is that you lower the gain on one element to make room for another element, but you do it automatically. For example, whenever a snare hits, the bass might lower itself in volume, and when the snare sound stops, the bass will move back up in volume, making for a more tucked in mix. And if you want to learn all about sidechaining, I have linked this video in the description. Go check it out and I'll see you there. Peace!